What I'll say before I get into this is this is comes off of a lot longer presentation, so you get a lot more build up to this. So I hope that this isn't too much out of context for you. The role method with prompting is basically, as I said earlier, these models are as smart as the most intelligent humans all on the planet combined, but we have to direct them to get the information out of it. So if we're asking a very generalized question, we're going to get a very generalized response. And so you start to narrow down and include things when you build a prompt to get better responses out of it. And that starts with assigning it a role. So you want to tell ChatGPT or a large language model, what role are they taking, right? Act as a direct response marketer, act as an email marketing specialist, or act as a sales manager. The next thing that you want is the output. So after you've said what role to assume, now you need to give it what type of information context are you looking to get out of a response. So you want to be clear and explicit and not ramble on when you're putting that in your prompt. You want to use specific syntax and grammar structure because you don't want to confuse this model, because if you confuse the model, you're going to get a less enhanced version of what you possibly could if you took the time to actually convey your thought more clearly. If you have any examples of what you're looking for in terms of what the output is or what you would like it to include, things like bullet points, summarization paragraphs, things like that, you would put that in the output section. After that, we have limitations. So these are the constraints or the boundaries that you don't want inside of the response. So for example, if you want to write an Instagram post and you don't want any emojis, no emojis. Or if you don't want bullet points, include that. If you want it to be less than 100 words, include that information too. It's actually tasks like that, less than 100 words, 270 characters, very difficult for an LLM to do, just an FYI. The extras are anything else that you need on top of that, right? So if you're talking about product information, company information, SOPs, or if you wanted to speak in a specific tone of voice, maybe you have a company branded tone of voice, or maybe you want it to come out like Yoda or Shakespeare, you can include that as well. It's a great place to put in your links and any updated documents that you may have with that as well. Number 5 is keeping the prompt clean. So as I mentioned before, the more information we start putting in there, the better the chances of us kind of jumping back and forth on our topics. And so in order to not confuse these models, we can separate the information with something called a delimiter. A delimiter is 3 instances of a non-naturally occurring character, right? So how often do you put 3 equals in a paragraph that you write? You don't. So that signals to these models that this is a new piece of information, or this is a new section. And so if you want, you can do those little delimiters, and then you'll say, here is my Instagram post example. And now it knows this is a separate section from up here to treat it separately. The last is using uploaded files. So most of these models now have the capability to use uploaded files like PDFs or Word documents directly in the chat. The free version of ChatGPT does not allow you to do that. You have to pay for it. Some of the other ones do on the free access, but it's going to be which model you choose. So doing that will allow you to upload massive amounts of information. I've done a 1,000-page document with ChatGPT before. So it depends on which model you're using and how much information it can put in, but you can now put documents directly in these large language models and get information out of them. All right, last slide. So the last thing, this is probably the most important one, your task is to do this. Do you understand? When you ask it to confirm comprehension, what you're doing is getting a preview of what ChatGPT thinks the answer is going to be. And so if it does that and it answers you in a direction that you're not happy with or you don't want it to do, you have the opportunity to say, no, it's not what I'm looking for. I wanted you to answer it in this direction. And so now you have an opportunity to clarify that and reorient the model to do exactly what you're looking for. On the back end, you don't have to put this second one here, but do you need any additional information from me in order to do your job more effectively? When you do that, it is going to ask you some more questions. You can provide answers to those questions, and you're giving it a lot more color context into what type of information you're looking out of it. And that is all I have for today.